Welcome again to the Old Principal. I am the Old Principal, and we are now going to look at a new lesson. This will be lesson number 262, Bandon by the Sea. 这个是海边的一个小城市 Bandon, Oregon, in the northwest of the United States. So, before we go any further, let's listen to my wife read the story.
Story 262, Bandon by the Sea. I was selling books door to door. That is, I was supposed to be selling books, but I was too shy and fearful. My supervisors realized that it had been a mistake to put me by myself, so they assigned me to work with Bob Nickel down on the Oregon coast. To some extent, the plan worked because Bob was an ace salesman, and he kept my spirits up. About the time I was transferred to Bandon, my younger brother lost his driver's license. One day he was speeding, and a policeman attempted to pull him over. Thinking that his car was hotter than the policeman's car, he tried to outrun him. For that, he was busted. He couldn't drive for a year. So, I asked him if I could borrow his '58 Chevrolet. He agreed. I now had freedom. I had wheels. One day I came around the end of a fence just as the lady of the house had been soaked accidentally by her own water sprinkler. The surprise of the moment allowed me to be temporarily relaxed, and she invited me into their beautiful home. Usually people who live in big, beautiful homes don't buy from door-to-door salesmen, but this lady seemed different. After showing her the books, I tried to close the deal. I was disappointed when she said, "I'd rather you'd come back this evening and show them to my husband also." So, with wildly pounding heart, I returned in the evening. I was surprised to find her husband to be equally as nice. That evening I sold a lot of books. Weekly reports to the head office showed that I was improving slightly. But before the end of the summer, Dad called me back home. Business was booming, and he needed me to drive one of his trucks. I happily agreed because driving a truck was far easier than selling books.
We are ready to go. I was selling books door to door. I was selling books door to door. That is, I was supposed to be selling books door to door. But I was too shy and fearful. Now, we've gone through these stories. This is the third one about my experience as a door-to-door salesman. 挨家挨户的推销员. So, the problem with me was I was just too shy. Remember a few lessons ago, we mentioned about being timorous or timid, shy, 害羞, okay, and fearful. Going on. My supervisors realized that it had been a mistake to put me by myself. So my supervisors, those people that were in charge of me, remember I was still a student. I was a college student, and I was trying to earn money for the summer, for the next school year. And so they realized, 他们意识到 that they had made a mistake. So they felt now that they had to put me with an experienced person. By myself, 独自推销 not good. So they assigned me to work with Bob Nickel down on the Oregon coast. Bob Nickel was an older student. He was a student like me, but he was already married. And so, and he was, by the way, quite successful. So they said, you go down and work with Bob Nickel on the Oregon coast, 俄勒冈的这个海边, Bandon, Oregon. Beautiful place, beautiful place to live, I'm sure, although I've never lived on the Oregon coast. To some extent, the plan worked. Okay, 在一定的程度上是有一点成功，有部分的成功啊。To some extent, the plan worked because Bob was an ace salesman. Now, what in the world does ace mean? Well, I guess ace originally it comes from poker, a gambling game or a game using cards,扑克牌, and there's an A, and that's an ace. But the word ace has developed another meaning very good. He was an ace salesman, meaning he was a very good salesman. And he kept my spirits up. 他维持我的精神，特别我的心情啊。So he kept my spirit up. It was actually it was quite funny, 非常幽默. So it was good. I was young, I was inexperienced, he was even though he was a student, he was much older than me. Going on. About the time I transferred to Bandon, so remember I had already done a month failure, actually, in another place. My younger brother, 我的弟弟, lost his driver's license. So what does it mean he lost his driver's license? 他的驾驶执照被吊销了. Okay, so they took his driver's license away from it. So how, in the United States, how does a young person, remember he's younger than me, how do you lose your driver's license? Well, here's the story. Going on. One day, he was speeding. Okay. 他超速. Okay, speeding, 超速. So he was speeding, and the policeman recognized that he was speeding. So the policeman attempted to pull him over. What does it mean to attempt to pull him over? In America, the policeman is in a car, and as he is driving along, if he starts following you and he turns on his license and he turns on the siren, wee, and you hear that, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to park by the side of the road. 要停在路旁. Now, the policeman tried, 尝试. Okay, he tried or attempted to pull him over. But, going on, thinking that his car was hotter than the policeman's car. Now, I must explain a few things. My brother was thinking that his car was hotter. That means hot, of course, 热. But when we're talking about cars and motors and especially young people, and they say, I have a hot car, that means 强有力的, okay, 一个车子. Have you heard of hot rod? Again, a hot rod is a strong, especially a car. So the policeman tried, my brother tried to outrun the policeman. What does that mean? It simply means that when the policeman started chasing after him, what did he do? He just started driving faster and faster and faster. Whoa! And so the policeman decided to start chasing him. That was not a good idea. Never try to outrun a policeman. For that reason, 因为这个缘故, okay, for that, he was busted. Busted means that, again, 吊销他的执照. He couldn't drive for a year. 有一年他没有办法开车. Going on. So, I asked him, my dear brother, since you cannot drive, and since you have this car, can I borrow your car? Now, remember that I was a student, but he was not a student. He didn't want to go to college. 他不想读大学. So I borrowed his 1958. This is his 1958 Chevrolet. Okay, 这个是一个牌子，美国的一个牌子。1958年, and it had a big motor. Had a very big motor. It was a gas hog. 这个耗油量很厉害. Have you heard of gas hog? Hog is a pig, 是猪. Okay, and a gas hog is a motor, 这个马达, that uses a lot of gas. A gas hog is 马达是耗油量太厉害. So, but it had a big motor, and it was a gas hog, but he let me borrow his 1958 Chevrolet. Now I had freedom. I was a free man. I had wheels. When we say I had wheels, in English it simply means I had a car. Young people say, now I have wheels. That's a young person's way of saying I have a car. Going on. One day this is when I was selling books. And I was selling books, and one day I came around a corner of the end of a fence. A fence, 篱笆. This was a high fence. You couldn't see through it. So you had to go around it. And so one day, I came around the end of a fence. I must have gone to the door, and I must have knocked on the door, because normally you don't go to a person's backyard. 平常你不到人家的这个后院去. But, so maybe nobody was at home, but I had a feeling somebody was home. So I decided that I would walk around the fence just as the lady of the house, that is, the lady that lived in the house, had been soaked accidentally by her own water sprinkler. What does that mean? That simply means the 这个洒水器, okay? That's a sprinkler. It sprinkles water all around. She had somehow turned it on, and 不小心 this 洒水器 soaked her, 把她弄湿了, okay? And it happened just at the exact moment that I came around the corner. Okay, going on. Now, the surprise of the moment. What does it mean, the surprise of the moment? Okay, 这个时刻的意外. Surprise, 惊奇. Well, of course she was surprised. And she wasn't expecting it. And so she's getting wet. And it just happened. I think she was laughing at the time. The surprise of the moment allowed me to 让我怎么样 to be temporarily relaxed. Now, usually, I was very 紧张, I was tense, and so now she laughed, and I laughed, okay? We both were laughing, okay? And so she invited me into their beautiful home. Okay, she invited me into, it was a big house. Usually, when you're selling books, you don't not always like to go to the big houses because somehow the very rich people don't like to buy from salesmen that come door to door. So, but in the surprise of the moment, she invited me into her house. Now that was cool. Going on. Usually people who live in big, beautiful homes don't buy from door-to-door salesmen. But this day seemed different. I just had a feeling inside, this will be different. She seemed like a very, very nice person. Okay, going on. After showing her the books, I tried to close the deal. Okay? Okay, what does it mean to close a deal? To close a deal simply means to finish selling. 要谈成这笔生意. Okay, to close the deal. I tried. Everybody comes up to the final close. And this is always hard because this is where you say, you can't even ask, well, do you want to buy these? Because no, they don't want to buy that. So you have to think of something positive like, this would be really helpful for your children, wouldn't it? And they said, okay. So you try to get them to say yes without them thinking that they said yes. After showing her the books, I tried to close the deal, but, going on, I was disappointed when she said, I'd rather you come back this evening. Come back this evening and show them to my husband. 我宁愿你今天晚上回来. and show them to my husband also. So all the rest of the day, my heart was going bump, 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 just like that. Okay? Going on. So with a wildly pounding heart, 狂跳 ，OK， 狂跳的这个心脏啊 I returned that evening. Okay, so my heart is beating wildly, and now I am coming in the evening. I probably didn't eat much food that evening. So that evening, I showed the books to her husband. And surprise upon surprise going on. That evening, I sold a lot of books. That was the most books that I sold all summer. Well, of course, I sold a few books here and a few books there, but not very many. But that evening, I sold a lot of books. 很多许多书啊 I sold many books. Weekly reports had to be sent to the office. So I sent the weekly reports. I'm sure that they were getting happier. At least I was starting to sell some books. Being with an experienced salesman was very helpful. I was improving slightly. 少少有进步. I was improving. So these weekly reports, 周报表, give the 总部, okay, the head office, so that I was improving slightly. Going on. But before the end of the summer, that means, of course, before summer vacation is over and I have to go back to school, my dad called me from home. My dad was at home, of course, and he called me on the telephone. By the way, in those days, we didn't have 手机. We did not have telephones. So he called me on the telephone and he had a request to give me. Business was booming. What does it mean? Business was booming. 很生意很兴旺. 生意很兴旺. In other words, things he was selling a lot. Remember, he sold, well, maybe you don't remember. I tell you right now, he sold concrete pipe. He actually manufactured concrete pipe, and he sold concrete pipe. 他是做这个水泥管 little ones and big, 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 big ones. And it was at this time that I was asked to drive one of his trucks. 他需要我开他的一个卡车. Okay, going on. I happily agreed. I was happy to agree. I was happy to go home and help him drive trucks because it was far easier to what? Drive a truck than to do what? To sell a book as a door-to-door salesman. You know, in many years later, if you'll remember a couple lessons ago, we were talking about this. When I first started to sell books, my father didn't say, "Good idea, John." He didn't say, "Bad idea" either. He said, "Okay, if you want to do that, you can do it." I think he was worried about this. I don't think he was happy, but he let me do it. Interestingly enough, he said nothing. But many years later, I was out behind our house, and my dad was out there with me, and he turned to me and he said, "Son, I am glad that you sold books door to door." Of course, I didn't see myself as very successful. In fact, I wasn't very successful. But he felt that that was part of the process for me to grow up. So, was I a successful salesman? Mamahu. So, not very good. But I learned many things that even my father said, "Son, that was good for you." And it was, because I was on my own. I had to make my own decisions. Well, we've come to the end of another lesson. You can write an email to us. We do have an email address, theoldprinciple@gmail.com, theoldprinciple 老校长, okay? And we have a website, 网站也有了. And our website is www.theoldprinciple.org. Hey, it's been great sharing with you a story from my life, a story from the Old Principle. I hope that you'll join us next time. Bye-bye.